This is a video on how to create the Vector Ninjas, and it actually comes from a graphic designer named Chris Spooner, so I'll give the credit to him. He created a written document on how to do this, and I'm just making it a video. So the first thing we need to do is open a new Illustrator file. So File, New, and let's make it just 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels. You can make it just about any size because we can make the vector as big or as small as we want, but 1,000 by 1,000 is a pretty good size to start with. Okay, we're gonna create some little ninja guys so that we can learn shapes a little better and the Pathfinder tool and align, the align palette. So let's go to the ellipse tool. Click and hold. It's probably the rectangle tool by default. If you click and hold that button or that tool, you can get the ellipse tool, which is basically circles. So click and drag. If you hold down shift, it keeps it a perfect circle. And I don't know, let's make it about this big. So this is going to be the head of the Vector Ninja. Let's click and hold on the shape tool, get a rectangle tool, and let's make a rectangle not quite as big as the circle, or not quite as wide. To move this, you need to get the selection tool. I'll probably say move tool several times because that's the Photoshop name of it, but the selection tool, V is the shortcut. So if you press V, click and drag this, and you can see that the red, the magenta lines can line it up for you. That's helpful, but I like to just make sure it's lined up anyway. So if it's a little off, I'll show you. Click and drag to select both of them, or if you hold down shift and click both, two different ways to select, but select both of them. Look for the align palette. Mine's right down here, but if you don't see it, go up to the window menu and select align, and it might show up right here. If it does, click and drag it. This is one that we should use all the time. Click and drag it down somewhere in so that you can click on it easily. Also, they should show up right up here on the toolbar, but just in case, they're down here as well. So let's line these up. There's a lot of these, and it takes a little while to get used to what they are, but if you hover over them, they say the name. This is the horizontal align center tool. So click that, and it aligns them horizontally on the center. If it lined them up right in the middle of the document when you press that, that means the align to right down here is on align to artboard. Sometimes we want to align it on the document. See, if I press that and then do this, it lines it up right in the middle. So I don't typically want to do that. Align to selection is best, and then every once in a while I'd switch it. So I've got those two perfectly aligned in the center horizontally. Now let's get a rounded rectangle tool. So go up to the shapes again, click and hold, and let's get the rounded rectangle. And as you click and hold, these are going to be the arms and legs of our ninja. And if you're still, so click and drag, but don't let go, and press the arrow keys, up and down arrow keys on the keyboard. If you press and hold them, this gives you more or less curve on the edges on this rounded rectangle. We're going to make it just perfectly round like that and make it about that long. Press V. And let's drag it down here. These will be the legs. We'll just line it up right on the side. Now I've got one. I'm just going to use the same one for the other leg and the two arms. So to do that, the best way because you could copy and paste, Control C, Control V. But if you just hold down Alt on the keyboard and you hover over it, it gives you two little selection tool arrows or cursors. I'm just going to click and drag while I'm holding Alt and bring that one over there. Going to do it again, up for the arm, and again, I don't even have to let go of Alt. Just click and drag, and it creates new ones. Okay, so for the legs, now this one's not perfectly aligned up with the square, so I'm going to select both of those and align them on the right, which is right there. And that just aligned them perfectly on the right side. So you can get really precise with these, and you should use them. Now with the arm, I'm going to hover over the corner of that one. I've got the selection tool. And if I click and drag on the corner, it shows me what angle I want them at. I am going to put it at. And it kind of snaps at 45, but I like to hold down the shift key and it only does 45-degree angles. 45-degree increments. So I'm going to let go at 45 degrees, and I'm going to put this arm kind of behind his head and body, although it's not behind it. So let's do the other one first before I show you how to get it behind it. Hold down shift, rotate it, and put it up in now. These two, I could hold down shift and click both of them and align them on the top, which is right here. That way I know they're perfectly lined up. And mine just happened to be that way. All right, I want to put these behind everything. So there's a few different ways to do that. I can click on it, right click, go to arrange, and send to back. But look at the shortcut keys here. Send backward one level, forward one level. Control bracket, left and right brackets. Control shift bracket to send it to the back. So I'm going to use, I'm just going to right click, go to arrange, send to back, and it sends it behind all of the shapes. Now, these are all layered. So if I'm just going to go to the layers panel real quick, and there's only one layer right now, this blue layer. But if I click this arrow right here, all of the layers are showing up below it, or inside that layer. So it's layering all my shapes, which is nice. So then I don't have to worry about it so much. But if I click on this one, it shows which one that is. It's highlighted right there, or the circle's highlighted, and it's got that blue square. So it's at the very bottom because I just sent it to the back. The back is the bottom. The top is the front. So the closest one, which would probably be this one. Yep. Now, if I want to send that back different levels, I could click and drag here, but then you have to deal with the layers palette and have that open, and you might have 100 of these at some point. So you don't want to have to deal with that. So the shortcut I showed you is the control bracket. So if control right bracket brings it to the front, which it already is, control left bracket sends it down one at a time. And if you look over there on the right, I don't know if you can see that, but it's going down to the bottom of the layers, and it's going back behind all of them. So I just did control bracket. Control shift bracket, I'll do that to this one. Control shift bracket immediately sends it to the back. So I'll just do that. Control shift left bracket, send them all to the back. And you could select them all and do it at once also. And I'm going to send this back, not to the very back because I want it to be in front of the arm, but behind the head. So this is a good one to do. Control left bracket. One time it went right behind it. Okay, so that's how I want it lined up for now. So back to the head, we're going to make the face now. And so I'm going to grab the ellipse tool once again, and I'm going to make an oval just slightly bigger than the head, slightly wider than the head, about like that. And then I'm going to get another circle about the same height, holding down shift, about the same height as that oval-ish, and press V to get the selection tool, and I'm going to drag it to the center, but there's lots of lines now that's trying to line up with everything. So I'm just going to stick it right there, select both, and use my horizontal align center tool right here. Make sure they're lined up perfectly. Okay, now I'm trying to make the mask out of this. You'll see it in a second, but I want this oval, the first oval, in front of this one, and it's behind it. So I'm going to do the same thing, control shift right bracket, and it brings it out in front over the top of it. And this is the face mask, because the only thing that a ninja has visible is the face, and so that's this. I'm going to just press my arrow key up to nudge it up a little bit, right about there. This is what the face mask is going to look like. So I'm going to select both of these, and this is the Pathfinder tool. If you don't have the Pathfinder palette over here, go get it in the window menu, Pathfinder, and drag it over here. You're going to use this a lot also. Now this is in the front of this one. On the layer is in front of this one back here, and I want to get rid of this one, so it's in the front. So this minus front tool is useful for that reason, or in that situation. Select both of them and do this minus front tool, and it gets rid of that shape and it makes a new shape out of it. And now this is the face mask, and that's actually a little small, so I'm going to make it a little bigger. Just going to drag on the corner and make it the size that I want it. That's his face mask. That's pretty good right there. And he's got a really big head, but that's why that's cartoony, makes it cute. Okay, face mask right there. So I just created a new shape. So these Pathfinder tools here, there's a lot of them. I use 2 or 3 typically, the most, but that is how we make new shapes. That's what this is all about. There's a few simple shapes, but we can make any shape that we want out of those shapes using the Pathfinder tools. So that's one example of how to do it. Now I'm going to get some eyes here real quick. So I'm going to get the ellipse tool once again. Click and drag, hold down shift. I'm just going to make these really small eyeballs. And you might want to zoom in. I do alt scroll wheel. And so now the shape has by default a black stroke on it and a white fill color, but I want to switch the fill to black just to fill it in. That's the eyeball. And if I have a fill color, I usually take off the stroke because that can cause problems sometimes. So if it's filled, then I just take off the stroke, especially if it's the same color. So I'm going to move that over here to the mask. I'm going to stick the eyeball where I think it should be and hold down Alt and click and drag. Now if you want it to stay on the same level, like I don't want his eyes to be all wonky like this, I hold down Shift. So I'm holding down Alt and Shift, or after I clicked I held down Shift and I drag it out here, and I could line those up, you know, perfectly however I wanted. And there's the 2 eyeballs. Okay, so there's the start of the ninja. We're going to now color it, but also join some of these shapes together. So let's join the shapes first, the body. Before I join anything, I want to keep a copy of it unjoined if I want to change where his arms and legs are. So I'm going to select all of this. I just clicked and dragged and hold down Alt, click and drag. I'm just going to set one out there for future use if I want to change the arms or leg positions, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. Now I'm going to select everything on the body, arms and legs and body. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click all those down there. And this first one right here on the Pathfinder palette is the Unite tool. When I click that, it changes it from 5 different shapes to 1 shape. And that's what I want. So now it's just a solid body, arms and legs. And that's why I kept this out here, because now I can't move the arms or legs because I joined them all. And so later, if I want to join them differently, or move them, I guess, before I join them, I'll do it with this and then join them afterwards. Okay, let's keep going. The colors. Okay, let's color this guy. So I'm going to select the head, and we're going to deal with strokes here. So let's go, there's a stroke palette, but the appearance has a little bit more that we're going to use, and it also has the stroke palette if I click on it. So find the appearance palette. It's there's a little kind of sun looking thing over here, or just go to Windows and Appearance. Now in the appearance palette, I've got the stroke and I've got the fill and the colors, and by default there's a 1-point stroke on everything. So I'm going to make it thicker. I'm just going to click the up arrow on the 1-point stroke, and I'm going to go pretty thick. How about maybe 10? And it depends on the size of the canvas or the document that you have, the size of the actual shape. So yours might not be 10, just whatever looks good, pretty thick like this. It's kind of cartoony. I might even go a little more than that, maybe 12. And okay, so now I click on the stroke, and there's a few options here. And if you don't see those options when you click on the stroke, go to the stroke palette and click the little menu right here. There's 4 bars, and say show options. Mine's already showing, so it says hide options. So make sure those options are showing. Now back in the appearance palette, if I click on stroke, here's the options. And by default, the alignment of the stroke is on the outside. No, sorry, inside. And I'm going to switch it to the outside. Okay, you could also do the center of it. So now it's right on the center of the path. As you can see, that blue line, it's right in the center. There's inside by default, so it's all on the inside. I'm going to do the outside. And on the outside, I'm going to make it, well, I'm going to keep it black. But the fill color, So I'm done there for a second. The fill color, I'm going to click right here and change that color. I'm going to do a pretty dark gray for the inside. Maybe, yeah, one of these darker grays. So now there's a big stroke. I usually like either no stroke or a thick stroke, okay? Like this right here, that really thin stroke, I don't know. I don't like that much. I just like solid colors, but if you want a stroke, make it thick, because then there's a reason for it. Okay, one more thing. So I'm gonna have a double stroke actually, because that just adds a little interest and it looks maybe a little shaded. So I'm going to add another stroke. I'm gonna come up here on the appearance palette to the menu and say add new stroke. Make sure you've got the head selected still. Add new stroke. Now I've got two, and they're both on the outside, I believe. That's why it's only looks like there's one still. So I'm going to change that to the inside. See, now I've got two 12-point strokes, and so I've got 24 total. That's really thick, and I don't want it that thick, but I want two different ones, different colors. So I'm going to switch the color on this one to maybe something a little lighter than the fill color, just like that. So it just adds a little interest, a little better, more cartoony. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to the face, only just a little bit different. So, in fact, I'm going to do just that to the body. And the way that, so I've already done it here. I don't want to add those strokes again and add the colors. So this is a really cool thing. If I click on this thumbnail right here, this little image is all those settings. So I'm just going to click and drag that down to the body, and it applies it. That's perfect. Then I don't have to do it again. The mask is going to be a little different, however. So I'm going to select the mask and change the stroke. Just click over here on the points, and I'm going to go up, probably not to 12, maybe to 10, just a little a little thinner. I'm going to do that, the black one on the outside again, and then I'm going to do an inside stroke. So I'm going to add one from this menu, add new stroke, and that one's going to go on the inside. But before I change the color of that, I'm going to get a fill color. It's going to be just kind of a light brown flesh color. And now the inside stroke, I want just a little bit darker than that skin color that I chose. So, whoops, color right here. Just going to go a little darker. There we go. So that's kind of cool right there. There's my little Vector Ninja. Cute little guy, right? But watch out for him. He's dangerous. Okay, now I can change. So if I want to change, there's a few different things I can do. Like I could put the arm like this, bring it to the front, Control Shift, right bracket, and now see he's got an arm. Like I could stick a bow staff, for example, underneath that arm. Now it's kind of in the front instead of in the back. And so I can change, but I can change the arms and legs positions. But I would just take this one, press Alt, and bring it over here. Oh, now they're a little bit too big. I should have gone a little smaller. I could just resize. If I hold down Shift, it keeps the same dimensions, proportions. Okay, so I've got that one. I could do another one like, in fact, I'm just going to copy this one now because it's the right size. Delete this one. Okay, so I can bring another one over and just show you a couple different, I mean, you can do whatever you want with the arms and legs, but if you did something like, you know, you could rotate this leg so it's like this, and then you can bring it to the front, Control Shift right bracket, put this arm back to the back, Control Shift left bracket, and maybe rotate this a little bit. And now he's like flying in from somewhere to karate chop somebody or kick or whatever. So obviously you can change the arms and legs to different positions to whatever you want this guy to look like. And when you get them to that position, you can select all of them and use the align, the Pathfinder and join them just like we did before. This one, however, like I want this one to be in the front, so I'm not going to join that one. I'm just going to join those three, and that one kind of stays in the front. Or if the arm was down, like this one, I would join these three, not over here obviously, but and then the arm's in the front, and you could stick something underneath, slide something underneath it because it's still in front. So I'm going to Control Z and undo that one. Now, like we did before, you can click on this and just apply that to there, apply this one, click and drag to the mask, and that's an easy way to add the same settings. And so then you don't have to redo it a million times. Pretty awesome. Okay, there's my ninjas. Vector ninjas. They don't have their weapons. I'll show that in the next video.